The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. 6 hours to go before the trade deadline. What deals President Trump has made and which country is getting a 3-month reprieve?
This officer saved lives. He was out front. Others may be live today because he was the barrier.
A fallen hero laid to rest. The final honor received for Officer Islam as a city remains in mourning. And then new documents revealed about the so-called Russia hoax, who the Durham investigation thought was behind the accusations that President Trump was a pawn of the Russians in 2016. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, thank you for joining us, and we begin with severe storms and heavy rains all along the East Coast as well as the South right now, the Southeast and the Midwest, putting as many as 50 million people under severe weather alerts, and separately, another 50 million under flood watches. These flood alerts are active in most places until at least 2 tomorrow morning. And check out these videos from Joppa Magnolia Volunteer Fire Company in Maryland. I mean, you can barely see. The fire department's Facebook page has been uploading these videos all day long. Some of the rescues, several people have been saved from today's rainstorms and rising flood waters. All of this bad weather creating havoc on air travel around the country. We've got the numbers right here. More than 7,000 flights have been delayed into or out of the United States today, with almost 1,500 cancellations. The hardest hit as of 3 p.m., of course, have been those East Coast airports like LaGuardia and JFK International in New York, as well as Reagan National here in D.C. and Logan International in Boston. Stay with us as we continue to track the latest developments on these weather alerts throughout the night. We'll have the latest for you, both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Well, in just 6 hours, President Trump's August 1st tariffs go into effect for almost all countries that don't have a new trade deal with the United States. The president did announce that Mexico is getting at least a 90-day extension because there are issues at play that complicate a pure trade agreement like enforcement of the border. Meanwhile, a new tariff deal is in place with South Korea, set at 15%. This lowers the 25% tariff that has been in effect since April. A China deal isn't done yet, but it could be close.
We pushed back on them quite a bit and made our positions known. I believe that we have the makings of a deal. There's still a few technical details to be worked out on the Chinese side between us. I'm confident that it will be done, but it's not 100% done.
As far as the deal with our northern border, President Trump posted on Truth Social that Canada's backing yesterday of a possible Palestinian state complicates negotiations. And now it's, quote, very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Stay tuned as we will have more on the situation later in the show. But as the president is making these deals and announcing tariff policies, a panel of 11 judges in Washington, D.C. is hearing arguments over whether or not President Trump has the power to make these decisions on his own. 2 small businesses have sued the administration, saying these tariffs are illegal, and the president needs congressional approval. The panel won't rule this week, and then the losing party is likely to appeal to the Supreme Court. These tariffs will almost certainly remain in effect until the Supreme Court rules, which could take another year.
This murder and the murder of others who were in the building, it cut me to my core.
New York's finest, along with Mayor Eric Adams, Governor Kathy Hochul, gathered to lay to rest slain officer Didarul Islam, killed alongside 3 others on Monday night. Officer Islam will be remembered for his heroism and dedication to the people of New York. And it was for that service that the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, gave Officer Islam one last honor.
And though his journey was cut too short, the way he lived this job, with steadiness, with heart, with conviction, it reflected everything this title represents. So today, it is my honor and my great privilege to promote police officer Didarul Islam to detective first grade.
On Capitol Hill, there is a bipartisan push to crack down on congressional stock trading, but not everyone's on board. National correspondent Kelly Gaskins joins us from Washington with how the president is weighing in.
A bill to ban stock trading by lawmakers gained steam on Capitol Hill this week.
Members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not.
The Honest Act, introduced by Republican Josh Hawley and Democrat Gary Peters, would bar members of Congress, their spouses, and importantly, the president and vice president, from buying or selling stocks while in office.
I don't see the necessity of this. I can imagine all kinds of unintended consequences.
But the bill's reach, extending to the Oval Office, sparked fierce backlash from President Trump, who then blasted Senator Hawley on Truth Social, calling Hawley a second-tier senator for supporting the measure and calling him a pawn of the Democrats.
On this vote, the yeas are 8, the nays are 7, and the motion is agreed to.
Hawley was the only Republican to vote with all Democrats on advancing the bill out of committee. Hawley responding to the criticism.
I had a good chat with the president earlier this evening, and he reiterated to me he wants to see a ban on stock trading by people like Nancy Pelosi and members of Congress.
Hawley's bill was initially titled the Pelosi Act, which stands for Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments, a reference to the former Democratic Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who faced immense scrutiny for her husband's extremely lucrative stock trades.
What I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated, because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen?
Pelosi hitting back.
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress, but I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time.
And Dee, despite the president's opposition, the bill is moving forward. If passed, however, the provision impacting the executive branch will take effect, but only after President Trump leaves office. What do we know about simply how the American public feels about this issue, Kayla? Well, data shows voters are overwhelmingly in favor of placing bans on lawmakers' ability to trade stocks. A poll from 2023 out of the University of Maryland School of Public Policy finding 87% of Republicans and 88% of Democrats are in favor. Lawmakers, though, who don't want to see the law enacted, argue insider trading laws are sufficient to cover this. They also say an unintended consequence will actually lead to more career politicians, because those who own businesses or trade in the stock market will not won't give that up to run for office. Now, stock trading, those in favor, like Senator Hawley, argue that the insider trading laws are not sufficient and that this law is very much needed. Dee Dee. Live from Washington, D.C., Kayla Gaskins, thank you. Both Texas and national Democrats are pushing back against state Republican lawmakers' newly released redistricting map proposal that could give Republicans an additional 5 seats in the U.S. House. Democratic State Representative Jolanda Jones says it's way worse than she thought, while House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says this fight isn't over.
And led by the people standing behind me, there is an ability for the people of Texas to make their voices heard, show up, stand up, speak up for what is right, for their opportunity to determine their own destiny through the gift of democracy and free and fair elections.
48 child predators and human traffickers, including 6 foreign nationals, have been arrested in Marion County, Florida during a 6-day operation dubbed Seek and You Shall Find. Law enforcement says this is the highest number of arrests they have made in the annual sting. Authorities, they also seized guns, drugs, cash, and vehicles during the operation, and more arrests are expected as detectives continue to investigate. At least 1 person is dead and at least 22 others sick due to a Legionnaires' outbreak in New York City since last Friday night. night. The New York Health Department said today they're looking into the Harlem community and the areas immediately connecting to it. Legionnaire's disease is a kind of pneumonia caused by bacteria that grows in warm water. It can only be contracted by drinking tainted water or by inhaling vapors containing the bacteria. Parents work hard to keep their kids safe on smartphones, but a new global study is raising some tough questions. It suggests giving a child a smartphone before age 13 might do more harm than good. The National News Desk, Angela Brown, is looking into the study.
Some kids are getting their first smartphone in the first grade, and parents, experts are warning it could shape their mental health for life.
It's going to move them towards suicidal thinking, terrible anxiety.
Sounds extreme, right? But a new global study is saying the same thing. Researchers analyzed data from more than 100,000 people worldwide. The results are pretty clear here. Kids who got a smartphone before 13 were more likely to face serious health struggles as young adults, including suicidal thoughts, detachment from reality, and diminished self-worth. Young women seem to be especially vulnerable. Dr. Dean Beckloff sees it firsthand.
Let's take females, for example. They are young kids being exposed to what is supposed to be perfection, which no one has. And I don't measure up. And then you tie in with that the kind of crass, awful bullying.
But not everyone agrees the solution is as simple as taking phones away. For some kids who feel isolated or maybe even marginalized, their phones may be a lifeline. Also, an Oxford study found that screen time, even before bed, has little impact on teen well-being. One solution, the study recommends no smartphone before the age of 13, or maybe get your kid like a kid-friendly phone, maybe a flip phone if they're around, and restrict access to social media. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
A flip phone. That's a good idea. Coming up next year, the State Department has a new message for the Palestinian Authority. A look at the push for a new state in the Middle East. Also, arson investigation. A massive fire destroyed a historic funeral home in Seattle, and officials say it was intentionally set. And later, the president and his athletic friends. What's inside President Trump's newest executive order? What did she know, and when did she know it? A newly released document from the Trump administration seems to implicate former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton to questionable intelligence about Russian collusion in the 2016 election. National correspondent Matt Gelka reports from Washington.
A new declassified annex to the 2023 Durham report has new details on the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. The report contains previously unseen correspondence that then-candidate Hillary Clinton approved a plan to smear Donald Trump by magnifying the scandal tied to the intrusion by the Russian special services.
But I think it's evidence of the great depth that the deep state will go to cover up weaponization that was going on in the FBI and the executive branch of government generally under the Obama administration.
Other parts of the annex show part of the plan was meant to distract from Clinton's own email scandal. The correspondence was taking place as the FBI and intelligence services were investigating potential Russian influence and meddling in the election and any ties to Trump in an operation known as Crossfire Hurricane.
This is further evidence that Hillary Clinton approved the Russia hoax against President Trump. Her campaign financed it. Again, she approved it.
Fox News reported that the annex was discovered along with other documents by FBI Director Kash Patel in a secret room in a burn bag used to destroy classified material. The Durham report from 2023 concluded that the FBI bungled the investigation into Russian interference and alleged collusion with Trump in a lot of ways, calling it seriously flawed. An op-ed from former CIA Director John Brennan and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper ahead of the document's release slammed the Trump administration's claims, saying the administration was seeking to rewrite history. The two former officials defended the findings at the time.
The last couple of weeks, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe have been putting out very misleading and inaccurate reports about what was included in that intelligence community assessment.
The newly released documents are part of a series of new files from the Trump administration where Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has said there's evidence of treason against former President Obama, alleging the former president and allies manufactured intelligence to stop Trump from getting elected by trying to tie him to Russia. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff is back in Israel today and met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The two discussed the humanitarian crisis inside Gaza, as well as a path to end the war and get all of the remaining hostages back who were abducted almost 2 years ago in October of 2023. It is being reported out of Israel that Hamas is no longer communicating with negotiators for a ceasefire deal. It is also believed that 50 hostages are still being held, 20 of whom are believed to be alive. The president today posting on Truth Social, the fastest way to end the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. Meanwhile, the State Department is sanctioning members of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization, the one-time terrorist organization yelled by Yasser Arafat in the 70s and the 80s for not complying with commitments made in '89 and again in '02 to maintain peace with Israel, as well as the Palestinian authorities continuing to pay for SLAY, that program that gives money to Palestinian families that commit violent crimes against Israelis. Also, all PA and PLO members are no longer eligible to visas to enter the U.S. This could hamper their efforts to push for statehood at the UN in September. This is more countries like Canada, Britain, and France say they would recognize Palestine as a sovereign state ruled by the Palestinian Authority. Almost 200,000 toy kitchens are being recalled due to a strangulation hazard with the kitchen accessory hooks. At least one child has died. The toy kitchens were sold on Amazon and online through KidCraft, as well as at Walmart from 2018 through July. KidCraft filed for bankruptcy last year, and the company is now run by Backyard Kids. Owners should stop using the kitchens, remove the hooks, and contact Backyard Kids for free replacements. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From Austin, Texas, where business owners are asking lawmakers to approve more disaster relief funds, to cattle farmers in Oregon facing financial challenges as beef prices rise nationwide. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Seattle, where investigators say a historic funeral home was intentionally set on fire.
New video from Eston cameras capture the intense flames as they tear through a historic Columbia City funeral home. Now the big question remains, who would set fire to the historic site dating back to 1907?
The first thing I always think is arson. because I don't know why anybody would burn this down.
Seattle fire crews working tirelessly for hours, spraying water from the outside in and attacking it from up above.
This funeral home has been here for over 100 years. It's been an institution and part of the community for that long period of time. I grew up in this neighborhood, and I remember this vividly.
Firefighters say the funeral home was currently in use, most recently a funeral on Tuesday, as families grapple with the loss.
My stillborn son was serviced here, so years ago.
Shane Otley, a beef producer and member of the Oregon Farm Bureau Board, has been on his ranch for over 20 years. He says the rise in price is due to a combination of things, including recent cases of the screwworm parasite located in cattle in Mexico.
A lot of feeders will send cattle, a lot, especially in the south, southern region, southern, western, and central region. Buyers will send cattle to Mexico to be fed out. When beef prices 3 years ago started going really high, kind of caught everybody off guard. A lot of people, cost of operations went up. There was no retention of heifers, replacement heifers.
Otley says he and his wife were able to keep their heifers when others did not. It's allowed them to breathe a bit more, but he understands the people buying his products don't have that luxury. His advice to customers is to research what brands they're buying or buy directly from a rancher, which could lead to saving money over time.
Quick cash is what many small business owners need to recover from catastrophic flooding and other natural disasters.
The devastating floods over July 4th weekend really drove home for us why this program is so important. These small businesses just don't have a significant safety net to fall back on. And so what happens is when they're hit by a major disaster, they have to have cash to make payroll.
Governor Greg Abbott's special session agenda calls on lawmakers to simplify and streamline disaster assistance and not allow a natural disaster to become an economic one.
The keys here are to fix and to fund the Texas disaster relief programs available to small businesses.
Coming up, they may be man's best friend, but they could also be behind the aches and pains you deal with. How best to avoid dog walking injuries in 90 seconds. Well, if you have a four-legged best friend, you need to walk often, obviously, but a word of caution today. Medical reporter Liz Bodas shares why dog walking injuries are on the rise.
Hey there, everybody. These dog days of summer have many of us walking the dogs, maybe quickly, want to avoid the heat or even at dusk or dawn. But a word of caution to use a little extra caution or your back could pay the price.
It's all because, as a simple stop to sniff from 4-year-old Millie, a miniature Labradoodle, shows, it can put quite a tug or even a tweak on your back.
She's very hyper, loves people,
loves to have visitors, loves to go places in the car.
Jordan Earlywine is Millie's owner. She also happens to be a physical therapist here at Kentucky's Mayfield Brain and Spine. Along with Emily Begley, the two of them treat a fair amount of back injuries. It's one of the reasons they suggest balance workouts like these to reduce the risk of everything from poor balance to pulled muscles.
I think if you are going to let the dog pull and you're not in control of the dog, then yes, there is a risk for injury.
Those injuries are on the rise, according to a recent study from the Journal of American Veterinary Medicine. In the last 2 decades, they've jumped from about 7,000 a year to more than 32,000. 75% of them are in women. Half are in those ages 40 to 64. Since back injuries are common, along with sprains and trauma, Emily says stretches like these before dog walking can help reduce risk.
It would be good just to stretch those muscles, get them nice and loose, also warm up the back muscles.
Then when outside, check your surface for uneven ground and pay attention to your leash length.
I just like to make sure I have the leash kind of tight so she won't yank me or pull me unexpectedly.
Jordan says Millie pretty much stays right by her side now, especially when she brings along a few tail wagging treats.
Now, just a note, if you do need a little help with a dog to lower the risk for any kind of injury, many local shelters have low-cost training sessions, or you can reach out to a physical therapist for your own back and body. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Coming up, a return to fitness, how President Trump wants to encourage the next generation to get and stay healthy. We'll be right back.
This council will play an important role in shaping these new policies and ensuring that we preserve the American athletic tradition for many generations to come.
President Trump bringing back the presidential fitness test for teens and preteens in public schools. This test requires students to complete a range of physical challenges like running a mile on a school track, touching their toes, doing push-ups. President Eisenhower first started the test, and President Obama replaced it with a more long-term health-focused test over physical performance. The order also reestablishes the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, which emphasizes an active lifestyle and American sports. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we look into the increasing number of settlements between Ivy League schools and the administration, how new agreements go further than just academia. I'm Dee Dee Gatton here in Washington. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.